if you're a Tigers fan, I think this is good news. The Tigers are in on Bregman. There is mutual interest, but I don't think we are close to knowing how this is going to end.
All right. Cody Stavenhagen does a great job covering the Detroit Tigers. Always happy to have him on the show. Cody, thanks so much. You had just written an article about the pros and the cons of Gleyber Torres to the Detroit Tigers. Let's talk first about the pros. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Talk a little bit about the pros of what it means for Gleyber to go to Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is the offensive profile. He brings something the Tigers need, which is consistent quality at bats. Gleyber Torres, there's probably the reason Scott Harris and the Tigers were attracted to him. He does not swing and miss very often. He puts the ball in play. He walks at a healthy clip. He does not strike out very often. Look at his on-base percentage throughout his career. It's above 330, and it's been pretty rock solid year in and year out. For as much as Torres can have a reputation as kind of a frustrating player, for as much as he's never quite lived up to that 2019 peak, this guy still gives you good at-bats, consistent. He can be a top half of the order for the Tigers, get on base. It's a team that overall still needs to cut down on its strikeouts, and so Torres checks that box. I think that's the obvious big pro in adding him to the Detroit Tigers.
All right, so the overall look, because this is like a domino move. There's going to be domino effects here. People are like, well, why is he taking Colt Keith's spot? Well, he's technically not taking Colt Keith's spot. Spencer Torkelson's not that far removed from a really good season himself. A lot closer removed than Gleyber Torres. Is this the doomsday for Spencer Torkelson, or is this just like we're going to accumulate as many good players as we can and try to roll it back out there?
No, I mean, that's a really good question, Eric. I think if we're being real, it's kind of an indictment of how the organization feels about Spencer Torkelson. For as much as he's a talented young guy who had a 30-homer season just 2 years ago, he has 1,400 career Major League plate appearances, and the overall track record is not that good. Even in the 30-homer season, the defense was minus. The on-base percentage was not quite where you'd want it to be. He was only a slightly above league average performer. If you kind of look at the whole, he's been demoted twice, including last season. And I think there's just kind of been some frustration of trying to unlock this best version of Torkelson. I think maybe in a different iteration of the Tigers organization, if they were still cellar dwellers, maybe you could give him a little more rope, give him another year, see what's in there. But I think the Tigers are under some pressure to perform, or not even pressure. They know they can perform, and thus are kind of looking to upgrade the whole lineup. That means Spencer Torkelson, if I had to guess right now, he's probably boxed out of the opening day roster entirely, which is still kind of wild to say aloud. But then you think 1,400 career plate appearances, as much as he's a young guy, we've seen a lot, and the totality of the performance just hasn't quite been there.
Now, I want to stay on this for just 1 second. So Colt Keith and Spencer Torkelson, Scott Harris said that they both talked to them before. Was it before they made the decision to get Gleyber Torres, or was it like, hey, listen, we're going to get Gleyber Torres. How do you guys feel about this? Did you know the inkling on that?
Yeah, that's another good question. I don't know the exact timeline. I get the sense it was kind of like when it was all but final.
Yeah.
Hey, this is happening. Just wanted to let you guys know and talk it out with you guys.
And that's where like it comes into part. Like that's kind of a rarity now. If you want the truth, guys coming up to you, in the organization, explaining to you, hey, listen, either we just signed this guy or we're about to sign this guy. What is a guy like Torkelson supposed to say? Oh no, man, this is a bad decision. How about me? You know what I mean? Like, what are you supposed to say there? Is that just like one of those like, oh man, I just wanted to reach out and just hopefully you're okay with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what it is. It does seem like since Scott Harris took over, the Tigers have done a pretty good job being like proactive and just communicating with players, keeping them somewhat in the loop. But yeah, I mean, I think anyone can imagine getting a call from their boss. Hey, we're kind of replacing you. You're kind of getting demoted. Hope you're okay with that. There's not a whole lot you can say in return. Scott Harris said Spencer Torkelson just kind of reminded him like how hard he is working. And Harris told him, hey, you're still a right-handed power bat. There could be a role for you. But yeah, like I guess it's better than them not calling Torkelson at all. Like I think that would be a bad look. But yeah, it's I don't think Tork was going to say anything to like change their minds at that point.
You're talking about a 1-1 guy. Like, these are the calls that I would get all the time. Like, it's not you, Eric. It's the organization. We're going in a different direction. You said it, and not to focus too much on Torkelson, but he is a 1-1. He was the future. He had 30 home run guy. Is a talk of like a Bregman type of signing the absolute nail in the coffin? And does Torkelson have any trade value in the sense of like you're looking at what's out there on the market, right-handed power guy? There's a lot of teams that need some power over at first base, or is that just, is it Toledo or bust right now for Torkelson?
Yeah, I'd be very curious to hear executives give their takes on the trade value. I would imagine it's not that high because he's a right-handed hitting first baseman. He's shown he has a power tool. He's not really shown much of any other tools in his time in the big leagues. So I think if you take away the 1-1 label, the good organization would probably view him through like a more objective lens. I'm not sure that's a piece you're dying to go out and get and throw in your everyday major league lineup. Maybe unless you have a glaring hole at first and you're a bad team just kind of looking to take a shot in the dark. I would guess Torkelson's trade value not that high. I would guess he is likely pending an injury to someone else to start the year in Toledo, kind of regardless of what else the Tigers do from here on out. It's a little bit hard to grade the Torres signing until we know what comes after. Like you guys said, I think it's kind of the first domino of a couple things to come here for the Tigers. But like I said, also like definitely an indictment of how the organization feels about Spencer Torkelson.
Kind of to follow up on that, Cody, with what Eric was saying, as far as a big time signing to complement some of the younger pieces there for Detroit. Obviously, Alex Bregman is still a name that's out there. A lot of people are connecting him to the Boston Red Sox. A lot of people would really like to see him in Detroit. What more can you tell us about whether or not that big Scott Boras free agent lands in Motown?
Yeah, I mean, the Tigers definitely like Alex Bregman. I think Alex Bregman has some interest in the Tigers. As of last weekend, it seemed like the Tigers, Red Sox, Blue Jays, maybe others were all still very much in the mix. For as much as social media is kind of almost wanted to portray like Bregman to the Tigers as imminent, I don't think it has ever quite gotten to that point. I heard what Ken Rosenthal said this morning about maybe the Tigers just aren't willing to spend. I think the Tigers would love to have Alex Bregman, but up to a certain point. I don't know what their number is, but I don't know that they're looking for a 7-year deal. I don't think they're willing to go up to $200 million. I think they're hoping that they can kind of be the last people standing at the table and end up getting Alex Bregman to agree to a deal. Could this be a thing where it's like Carlos Correa before the 2021 season where he has to just settle for less than he wants and you can construct a deal with some opt-outs or front load it? Like there are ways Bregman to the Tigers could happen, but it seems like there is more that has to play out, and there are other teams in on Bregman as well. So I keep saying, like, if you're a Tigers fan, I think this is good news. The Tigers are in on Bregman. There is mutual interest, but I don't think we are close to knowing how this is going to end.
With a team that hasn't spent a lot recently, I know they got Javi Baez. It didn't work out. You can't expect a team to just be like, well, we haven't spent for a while, so we saved up a lot of money. Here's $300 million that we're just going to go out and spend. And wouldn't that money be better used extending their current Cy Young Award winner? Or is that something that is not necessarily in the works, or even putting somebody around him? Because you saw what happened in the playoffs. It was like, okay, we win Tarek's game. Now we have a chance. We lose Tarek Skubal's game. Oh, now we have no chance. Because that seems like a bigger need to me.
Yeah, you know what? At winter meetings, everyone I talked to in the industry was just like, the Tigers probably aren't going to be able to extend Skubal because he's a Boras client. Because what could that price tag be? 300, 350, 400 million dollars? I don't know that Scott Boras wants to put a price tag on that until Skubal is indeed a free agent. Because what if he wins the Cy Young in 2025 and again in 2026? Absolutely, the Tigers should extend Skubal, but it's going to be very difficult to actually do, probably especially this far in advance. I think if the Tigers are to spend resources, it should be on offense. I think they've figured out some things pitching-wise. It's great to have an ace, a Cy Young winner, but they've proven they can cobble together a very good pitching staff if they have to. What they need more of, even though they have some talented young hitters, is legit middle-of-the-order bats. I think it makes a ton of sense to spend on Bregman, even though, like I've said, they seem to be operating like they have limits, restraints. I think if there's an excuse to kind of go all in, it's to give Alex Bregman what he wants and improve your lineup, improve your leadership, improve your defense. Checks a whole lot of boxes for the Tigers.
What's the feeling for Tigers fans? The euphoria of making the playoffs? Do Tigers fans know that the Twins fell flat on their face and the Tigers just basically like stepped over them as like so they wouldn't get their feet wet in the puddle of not making the playoffs? Like, have Tiger fans forgotten that part?
I'm not sure they were ever totally clued in on it in the first place. It was so exciting just watching the team play every day and win. And it's like, well, we're rising up the standings. Who cares how the Tigers are doing that? And it was exciting. And the team earned their playoff spot. I mean, you can't say they didn't earn it. They did, and they were amazing from August 1st on, really the entirety of the second half. But the mood of the fan base, I think, has been like tampered down some, seeing that a playoff berth doesn't automatically equal more aggression from the front office. So now I think there's kind of this cautious optimism. Everyone's ready to explode if the Tigers can sign Bregman or pull off a big trade or do something that really moves the needle. But I think everyone is slowly becoming a little more like accustomed to the reality of like, okay, the front office is still going to have a very patient approach, a very methodical kind of modus operandi for what they do going forward.
I want to just go back to Gleyber Torres real quick. Where do you think, projections-wise, they're going to have him in the lineup? Because the lineup, they did move guys around a lot. Where do you think he will be? Lead off, second, maybe bottom in the lineup? I don't know. Where do you project him to hit?
Yeah, I've been trying to think about this. AJ Hinch changes his lineup like every game. So let's assume they're facing a lefty starter who Torres projects to fare well against. I think in an ideal world, Parker Meadows is your leadoff guy. If he's hitting, speed, ideal table setter. So I'd probably slot Torres in at 2 or 3. Riley Green, I think, is an ideal number 2 hitter who still has a higher ceiling. And if you hit Green 2, Torres could make a lot of sense in that 3 spot, or like you guys have it on the screen right now, maybe it's Torres 2, Green 3, Carpenter 4. I think anywhere in that 2, 3, 4 spot right now makes a lot of sense for Gleyber Torres.
Cody, before we let you go, is there a realistic expectation perhaps that there would be a Jack Flaherty Detroit Tigers reunion? I mean, he's still on the board, probably the best starter out there now that Corbin Burns, Blake Snell, obviously Max Fried is gone. We still don't know where Roki Sasaki is going to end up, but do you see Flaherty back in a Tigers uniform?
Right now I would say that's unlikely, but it is interesting how those whispers kind of remain out there. Jeff Greenberg, the Tigers GM, said at winter meetings they were likely done seeking starting pitching, assuming they didn't get Roki Sasaki. But there are some question marks left in this rotation. I think it comes back to like the philosophy that I kind of mentioned earlier. It seems like the Tigers are content maybe being a little more patchwork in the 4 or 5 spots in their rotation, thinking they can optimize guys, get the best out of young arms like Brant Herter, Cater Montero. They do still have Kenta Maeda, and I think they're going to try to go into the year with him in the rotation. There's certainly a convincing argument that if you're really trying to win the AL Central, why would you not go out and give Jack Flaherty what he wants? But I think we're talking about how this team is going to allocate their resources, I think right now they're going to put more of that into the offensive side of the ball.
All right, Cody, we appreciate the insight as always. Thanks so much for being here. And if you are a Detroit fan, we know exactly where you should go for all of your Detroit news. They are part of the Foul Territory family, of course. Check out Tiger Territory, part of our network here, not only with Cody, but also with Kieran Steckley for all things Tigers on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.